The sound of that long, unbroken beep still slices through my skull whenever I let my eyelids fall. The NICU air had been icy, but the words my parents spoke felt like hot brands pressed against my skin. Measured, soothing, absolutely certain they still held every right to decide my life. Just 5 more minutes, Rachel. Breathe. You're hysterical. My mother's palm settled on my shoulder as if she were steadying me, yet in her other arm my premature son, barely heavier than a bag of sugar, was turning the color of dusk while she rocked him. Stop overreacting, my father barked. You're too worked up. In that instant the trembling inside me stopped like a switch flipping off. Something colder and clearer took its place. There was a time I looked up to them. My father, square-jawed, commanding, the kind of man people stepped aside for in hallways. My mother, quiet voice, surgical mind, lethal in the way only softness can be. They had trained me since childhood to be agreeable, presentable, quiet. I had confused their leash for affection. When I told them I was pregnant, their smiles looked like the closing of a profitable deal. When my baby arrived far too soon, lungs still half-formed, they swept in as though the entire ward now belonged to them. We know what's best, my mother murmured, and I believed her. I let them both take the wheel. They began small. My mother waving away my gut feelings with a gentle laugh. My father countermanding nurses before they could finish a sentence. Both of them correcting me in that smooth, educated tone that made me feel 12 years old again. The evening before everything shattered, I slipped into the unit and caught my mother detaching one of the alarms to tidy the cords. Her smile flashed too fast, too practiced. My father froze mid-step when he realized I was watching, then forced a joke that died in the air. Exhaustion makes patterns blurry, but I was starting to see. A nurse I barely knew caught my sleeve in the corridor. Her voice hovered just above silence. Your parents keep touching the equipment. Watch them. I didn't gasp, didn't weep. I thanked her politely and walked back to the pod with the steady stride of someone already counting steps to the guillotine. The terrible, freeing truth settled in my bones. They weren't trying to save my son. They were trying to keep me broken and dependent forever. Their love had always been a subscription plan, canceled the moment I no longer needed renewing. Grief hardened into evidence. Panic refined itself into tactics. I photographed every tampered wire, every altered setting, every timestamp. I asked questions I already knew were traps and let their own arrogance fill in the blanks. My mother sighed. You're too emotional to be trusted with decisions. And I saved the recording. My father muttered. You refused to be reasonable. And I preserved that too. I met with the hospital ethics board while pretending to hunt for decent coffee. I retained a lawyer 3 floors below the cafeteria. I told the brave nurse I needed only 5 days. 5 days to unravel the 2 people who had spent 26 years underestimating me. Then my son's oxygen numbers began sliding. Alarms screamed. My mother cradled him, cooing, while the saturated readings told the real story. Just 5 minutes, Rachel, calm down, she said again. My father reached over and casually disconnected the backup monitor to reboot it. 17 seconds. I counted everyone while his tiny mouth went violet. I did not shout. I simply stepped back and gave them the stage they had always demanded. 17 seconds was all the footage needed. The door opened. The nurse returned with security, the department chair, and a detective whose face carried no expression at all. My parents' certainty fractured one facial muscle at a time, first confusion, then the slow bleed of fear. My mother breathed my name like I had stabbed her in the back. I stayed quiet. The video played. Their own voices filled the room, clear and damning. The timestamps lined up like soldiers. My father tried to explain. My mother tried tears. Neither performance landed this time. When the cuffs closed, my son's monitor steadied. The nurse reattached everything the right way, her hands gentle and sure. Color flooded back into his cheeks, and for the first time in days I remembered how lungs felt when they were allowed to work. They were arrested on multiple felony counts. The hospital banned them permanently. Their names curdled overnight in every circle that once bowed to them. People keep asking if I feel remorse, if vengeance was worth the price. Vengeance. This was not vengeance. This was a mother placing her body between her child and the 2 people who believed they owned us both. This was the moment I stopped auditioning for their approval. Every morning I go to him, small, fierce, impossible. I lean close to the plastic wall that still guards him and I whisper the only inheritance he will ever need. You were never the fragile one. They were. I simply refused to let them keep writing the story where I stayed small and grateful. And now, for the first time, the voice telling the story is finally undeniably mine.